Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Built Like This podcast. I'm your host Maxine on episode 311. Hello. Go ahead and click that subscribe button right now and like the video because it's already about to be a good one. I thought to myself, I'm going to come on this podcast for this episode with an apology to Amanda Seales. I wanted to come forth and be like, I maybe misjudged her. And I still want to come forth with an apology. But the reason why I'm starting off like this right now is I was a little perturbed with a recent development of her latest news exposure. So she was recently on Club ShayShay's podcast, and she revealed how she was diagnosed as someone on the autistic spectrum disorder. And it seemed like in the interview that it was legitimate. And not to say it's not. Here's the thing with that, because I do understand this idea of like, I don't need to get westernized type of diagnosis to know that I'm different than the neurotypical set of people out here. I totally agree with that. But I also feel like there should be some merit loss, just in the sense of you wasn't clinically diagnosed. And from how the interview was shown to us, at the very least, it seemed like she was clinically diagnosed. And so when it started off like that, I was like, oh, wow. I immediately had this open mind and this open heart for her, because a lot of the things that she was saying, I related to. This feeling of feeling like an outsider, this feeling of always being misunderstood, and then getting in conflicts because of that. This feeling of people misunderstanding you because they think, oh, you're a know-it-all, you know everything. Like, I've gotten that my whole life, particularly during my childhood and adolescent years and young adult year. Like, this has been an ongoing trend that I have experienced as well. So there was something that I just didn't see in her prior to this interview, because she was more forthcoming in her feelings. Now, she was still this strongly opinionated, boisterous type of personality, but that's just who she is, and that's fine. But I think I saw a difference in her this time that allowed me to have compassion and understanding for her. So I do want to lend an apology to Amanda Seales if she cares. But I do, because I felt for her throughout the interview. I really did. I felt like she was experiencing a campaign smear, and I definitely contributed to that, unfortunately. But I was so caught up in just all of the news that was coming back to back to back to back of her, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, man, this woman is just insufferable. Now, here's the thing. I think two things can be true when it comes to assessing Amanda Seales. I feel like she can be a hard pill to swallow, but what opened my eyes and opened my heart to her even more in this interview was the fact that she it doesn't seem like, at least not all the time, it doesn't seem like she is trying to be ill will. It doesn't seem like she's disingenuous. It doesn't seem like she is an inconsistent person. Like, she is always the same person. I feel like that is something to be commended, especially in the industry that she's in. Especially in the industry that she's in, that thrives off of phoniness, that thrives off of fake personalities, and just being this fake person through and through. Yet with her, she has consistently been the same. She tracks from her childhood to now, and how throughout her life there's been an ongoing theme of people who were supposed to protect her but did not, um and people who wanted her to kind of dim her light. So I feel like with that being said, of course that's going to increase this rage, this inner rage in her, and make her be this angry person that she comes off as. She does come off as someone who complains a lot, who's angry a lot, and that comes from a lot of history of being silenced or being forced to be silenced but still speaking up, and then being ridiculed for that, being isolated for that. Like all of that does a toll on somebody, and I just felt for her. I'm sorry, I felt for her. Now look, she came forward in response to people's response to her interview. So she was on Instagram Live, and I found this video on X, formerly known as Twitter. And it seemed like someone on her live asked her if she was diagnosed with autism. And clearly she made it a point to say not clinically diagnosed, but she diagnosed it like it was a self-diagnosis. And again, I don't want to disregard that. Like I feel like there's a part of me that admires her immensely. And I know that's kind of a hard pill for me to even say out loud, because I've come on here contributing to her smearing, her campaign smear, or smear campaign, sorry. But I do admire how decolonized she is. But I think that comes with a level of privilege, though, because she's a lighter skinned woman. Like I think there's something to that. Um, what I did appreciate about the interview, there's a couple points that it just opened my heart to her. I was like, okay, maybe she's not so bad after all, right? But she was like how she read, like, so she does go to therapy. She does see a psychiatrist as well. I don't know how often necessarily, but she does enough, at least, because the way that she communicated about her sessions, she is seemingly learning and is being receptive to often the criticism that she is receiving, which is, oh, you're a know-it-all, you think you all that, da, 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 da. And like she's basically unlikable. She's not popular amongst the media streets. And what the therapist explained to her was that, yes, you're a truth teller. Yes, and I'm paraphrasing right now, but she's basically saying like, yes, you're a truth teller. You are being honest, and you're sharing your honesty, and you're not doing it in ill intent, but maybe pick a better time to deliver that pill of honesty, right? Like you don't always have to say what's on your mind at every moment of you thinking that thought. And I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, that's true. I related to that. But here's the difference. I learned that much earlier in my life, and that took some time as well. But being that Amanda Seales is in her early 40s, she's actually 42. And it seems like she just came to the realization that she doesn't have to say everything that's on her mind right then and there. Like she she could use some cool, she could shut the fuck up sometimes. It seems like she's learning that like right now. And it's like, look, hey, at least you're growing and learning, and that's all about, that's life. But Girl, what? Like, why didn't you figure that out before? She talks about how her mom let her be herself. Her mom didn't discipline her necessarily. Her mom still stood strong, has the authority figure in her life, but as far as no, Amanda, don't do that. Stop running around. Don't like no, none of that was done. So I guess she was doing free range parenting. That's what they call it, but that wasn't a name back then when she was growing up in the 80s. Anyway, I was really impressed. And I think also the fact that Amanda I don't know. Here's the thing. Amanda is very intelligent. She is an intellect. She is a scholar. She is a wordsmith. Like she's there. And that scene that's noticed that is obvious. You could see it in just how she comes up with her thoughts and articulate them. You could hear it in her speech. It's admirable. I really do admire that about her. What was hard for me to get through, though, throughout this interview was how Shannon Sharpe fell short every time. Like, every time. It felt like he just couldn't keep up with the mental gymnastics that Amanda Seales was demonstrating throughout the interview. And it was just so hard to watch. Like, man, just shut the fuck up, dog. Like, no, like in the very beginning of the interview, it was a boom. Like it was a great start because it immediately captured your attention. She is immediately showing in the interview some vulnerability. I think she was almost about to cry. I forgot about what though. But anyway, like within the first 12, 13 minutes of the interview, no more than 20 at the most, she talked about how she's been diagnosed with autism. And the reason why I said she's been diagnosed, like she said the word diagnosed. So the impression that gives is, oh, a clinician professionally diagnosed her. Child, that's not the case. So let me go ahead and play this quick clip of her talking about this autism that she believes she has. And look, I'm not going to take that away from her. If you think that you have autism, then you have autism, right? I'm not. You got it, girl. So that's fine.
So let me ask you this. How old were you when you got diagnosed, and did you always feel that you was different and you felt something was wrong?
So I'm gonna pause it right there because immediately that question bothered me. Why, you may ask? Because literally right before this line of questioning, Amanda has already said she was recently diagnosed with autism. Like literally, right? Right? The sentence prior to him asking that line of question, Amanda has already said it was not too long ago. And by the way that she said the word recently verbatim. Now, what does recently mean to you? Does it mean 5 years ago or does it mean like a year or two ago? I would say the latter. Just pay attention, Shay. And then he's talking so, I don't want to sound discriminatory, but like a damn country bumpkin. No, you're talking so damn loud. You're not listening. Stop cutting her off. And look at me trying to look at me defending Amanda Seales. But like seriously, like listen, she said it already. What he should have said was, wow, what led you to realize this diagnosis? How did you navigate your life? Like go past that question because she's already revealed. Yeah, I'm so playing it. I was so, and he's talking like he's like this journalist that's so profound. Oh, so when what age did you realize you were when you got diagnosed? Like, Like, are you fucking listening?
So let me ask you this. How old were you when you got diagnosed?
Oh, I hate. How old were you? Nigga, what?
And did you always feel that you was different and you felt something was wrong?
So that's the problem there too. She literally said she's always felt like an outsider. She always felt like an alien. Like, she literally said that right before this line of questioning that ShayShay is doing. He's a horrible listener. And look, I'm not trying to be like bougie when it comes to who should have interviews or who should not, but because this lane has been so overly saturated by people who are just like, I don't even know if you could communicate well. Hello? Hello? And look, you don't have to speak a certain way necessarily to demonstrate strong communication skills, but at the very least, be a good listener. Listen. She said this already.
Well, what's today?
Today is Thursday, the 18th.
So 42 and however many days until I was just recently diagnosed.
Okay.
And literally, she's saying she was just recently diagnosed. So within this year of 2024, okay? So because she's currently 42 years old. You know what I mean? Like, she literally just said that prior to this. Oh, so I hate when people don't listen. Like, can you? And then when they don't listen, they ask the same question that you've already given the answer to prior to them asking that question. Had you listened, you wouldn't have asked that question. You know what I mean? Oh, it's such a pet peeve. Oh my goodness, Lord. And then they'd be so loud. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. What? Can you open your mouth and speak better? Oh, that is so I know it sounds so bougie right now. I'm so sorry, but goodness, that is such that's such a pet peeve of mine.
And this came out of this situation because so many Black women who are autistic said to me, I see you. You need to. And I've always thought, if you can look at other interviews, I have mentioned before, like, I think I'm on the spectrum because I'm an 80s baby. This was not really a part of the narrative.
Right.
And as we started seeing more about autism and you start seeing shows about different characters, and I start learning more, like from people like Holly Robinson Peete, I'm like, this feels really like me. But then, I think sometimes we're afraid to learn certain things.
Yeah.
So
60s and 70s babies just got whipped and put to bed.
And to be honest, it's true. And to be honest, I just want to say, like
what, ShayShay? Oh, I don't know. Some people got way with the big. What? Gosh, shut up and let her talk, yo. And not me defending Amanda Seals, but golly, throughout this whole interview, I was like, man, if this nigga don't shut the fuck up, shut up. Like, he was quiet for the most part during the Cat Williams interview. Every second he's challenging her. There was a video of, well, hold on, maybe if I can find it, but let's continue with this.
So so in this revelation, my mother started looking up like symptoms of autistic children and was like, oh, you exhibited all of this, but I didn't know what to do with this. Mm-hmm. She's a single parent. She's trying to figure it out. But I really just thank my mom, because what my mom couldn't show up for me emotionally, I realized that she was able to, at the very least, that's not even fair to say.
Let me move on to this part right here.
Because so many people were seeing what I was experiencing, and they shared with me that they had had similar experiences.
Okay.
And so I recently was diagnosed as someone who has autism spectrum disorder, which is very difficult to identify in Black women because of racism.
So what exactly is autism spectrum? Because I hear people say you're on the spectrum.
It used to be called Asperger's.
Okay.
But that is no longer what it's called.
Here's the thing. I didn't know Asperger's is no longer the name for it. What? And I didn't know Asperger's and autism were different. Or were the same thing. Child, people just be making new words.
Because to my knowledge, Asperger was a Nazi.
Okay.
But what it simply means is that your brain functions in a different way. So you're neurodivergent. And you also have certain tendencies that are considered outside of what the neurotypical way of things is.
Okay.
And a lot of times.
Like, look, I promise you, Shannon Sharpe didn't understand a word she just said. I promise you, he was like, okay. He said, I promise he wanted to say this. So by neurotypical, you mean like what do you mean by that? Neurotypical. What does that mean? Because you so smart, Amanda Seals. Man, you so smart. I feel like he wanted to say all of that. He was just like, okay. And he's like covering his face. Okay. Okay, what? Did you hear me? Oh my God.
That can have you present in a manner that people misrepresent.
Okay. Okay.
Which is the story of my life.
Okay.
And so when all of this started ballooning out of nowhere and people were saying, you're unlikable and you're a bully. No, not you're a bully, but you're being bullied. And
was that
these were tropes that have been associated with me before, but I'm in a new level of visibility at this juncture. Mm-hmm. And you get people saying things like, you are difficult, you are mean, you are nasty, and you know that you're none of these things.
Right.
But they're attributing it to things that are not actually action-based. Like, I don't cheat people. I don't lie to people.
Were this in the workplace that you became difficult? Or this people?
But I have a certain tone about how...
Hold on, I want to see if I can find the part where... Basically, there's a part, it was in the beginning of the video, and he's basically dismissing her diagnosis. He's saying, but you could think differently. You could do this, but you don't have to be autistic. You don't have to be. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Shut up. But I think the issue with that is why are you forcing me in this moment to no longer believe that I'm autistic? If I think I'm autistic, then I'm autistic. If I think I'm autistic, then I am so. It's like he was challenging her. Just let her share. This is her time to talk about herself, to have this moment and talk about her experiences. Oh, he was so unnerving throughout this entire interview. I was so turned off. Okay, I think it's this part right here. Let's see. That's something else. Hold on. I'm gonna find it, y'all. This is crazy. Oh. Anyway, okay, but let's go back to that point real quick because I saved a few things on my X account, formerly known as Twitter. So yeah, so she comes on Instagram Live and she says this.
He was asking, they cut out at the end, he was asking, no, I have not been clinically diagnosed by a doctor because I'm not paying $10,000 to do that.
I saw it. Amanda, hold on. Let's bring it back.
They cut out at the end, he was asking, no, I have not been clinically diagnosed by a doctor because I'm not paying $10,000 to do that. And most people will tell you that at this age, you don't need a clinical diagnosis in that sense.
And I think that's the other thing. It's like,
So she was not clinically diagnosed, yet just in the previous clip I showed y'all, she said, I was just recently diagnosed. What is it? Okay. Shouldn't diagnosed be only used for clinicians, like by clinicians towards their patients? Diagnose, identify the nature of an illness or other problem by examination of the symptoms. Okay, I mean, technically anyone could diagnose. It's just such a professional verbiage that I would think only clinicians should use that. Nonetheless, she was not clinically diagnosed. That's the difference here. You could self-diagnose yourself, and you do find yourself simply thinking, oh my gosh, I have all of these things because WebMD told me. And we find ourselves catastrophizing all of our quote unquote normal symptoms. Who's to say? Maybe she is on the spectrum, and I think she probably may be. I do. I don't want to take away the fact that she feels this way, and she not even feels, she knows her behaviors. She knows her behavioral patterns. She talked about a few of her behaviors that are consistent with someone on this spectrum disorder. She does something called stemming, which is this like activity that those on the spectrum do to reduce their anxiety. But let me look up the actual, let's see. Yeah, so it's repetitive body movements or repetitive movements of objects. Apparently she's been doing this since she was a kid, and her mother could attest to that, as she says in the interview with Club ShayShay. She talks about other things I can't remember, but like this she brought up a lot of different symptoms that she experiences that are consistent with someone on this spectrum. So I mean, God bless. God bless. I do believe her. I just find it funny because I thought she was clinically diagnosed from the way that she talked about it in the interview. And for her to come on live a short moment later clarifying that no, she was not clinically diagnosed, and she says this afterwards.
We are so conditioned here in this nation to really only consider something in one kind of way. And I will get back to that. They cut out at the end.
So yeah, I hear what she's saying with that, right? We are so conditioned to think that there's only one way of diagnosing yourself or being diagnosed with X, Y, and Z. And if it's not done the westernized way, then it's not official. Then shut the fuck up, you're fine. And I think that diminishes one's experience and one's knowing of self. Like, no, I know something's a little different with me. I know I'm different than others. And yeah, we're all different in our own way. But there are other people who just easily get along with the go along or go along with the get along. And others who are just naturally revolutionaries or revolutionists. I think she's one of those. And she's on the spectrum. I mean, I'm not surprised. I never even thought about it. I thought she was just narcissistic. She claims her dad is. Now, look, everyone's just able to diagnose anybody, right? I think we've come so comfortable in the society to use these like professional disability type terms despite us not having an MD, a PhD, or anything behind or after our name. Like, okay. But anyway, God bless her. I have changed my opinion on her. I do feel like the smearing of her needs to stop. I really do. My heart feels for her. She talked about suicidal ideations, or she said the word suicidal. She was suicidal. So I don't know if she attempted, I don't know if she just had ideations, which is still just as bad, don't get me wrong. But nonetheless, I don't wish that for her. And I hope that she doesn't have to experience such a breakdown as she has been experiencing. She said recently, when there were like 4 articles published about her being this horrible person to work with and essentially getting blackballed in the Black spaces and media, that really did a number on her. And I could definitely feel for her for that. So yeah, I just want to apologize just for my contribution, my doing. I I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, serious, I am. I felt really bad, and I felt for her, and it was just sad, and not in like a pity type. I don't want to like come off like I'm pitying her because she's a grown woman. She's obviously in a better headspace, which I'm happy to see. But I think what I just felt sad for, I just felt this sympathy for her and this empathy because I've been there. I know how it feels to be isolated purposely and bullied and just alone and feeling different and misunderstood. I experienced that throughout my schooling years for the most part, especially middle school, high school. Like I always felt like I just didn't fit in. So when she was expressing those same sentiments, I understood. I understood. And I had to take a step back and was like, look, I had this bias against her because it was easy to, because of the smear campaign that was successful against her. But is that right? You know, I think 2 things could be true here. Yes, she could come off insufferable. Yes, she could come off like, okay, ugh, girl, can you just stop? You know, like, yeah, but like, I don't think she's deserving of being humiliated socially in a party setting when she got denied at the party. Um, Despite having friends who were a part of the planning of the party telling her, no, girl, you're invited. And then just to get embarrassed while in the party, having security guards who are all buff men come and gather her like she's this like scary person with a weapon. That was not okay. And for her to not be protected and stood up for by Issa Rae. Can you talk about Issa Rae? Hey, can we talk about Issa Rae? That was messed up, dog. Like, first of all, Issa Rae said, what she said? She said, this has nothing to do with me. I was not a part of this. And she kept repeating that, like, as if it's all about Issa Rae. Recognize the feeling in this woman here who you have employed, who you were seemingly cool enough with. Like they had a rapport. I don't want to say they were friends necessarily, because clearly that wasn't the case, but they were in good standing at least. So for you to not try to intervene and try to call some line of boundary, even if you agreed with Vanessa Anderson, who was and still is, I think, Issa Rae's publicist, you don't have to let that dictate how you treat Amanda Seales or how Amanda Seales treated. I feel like as the leader of this production company, Issa Rae should have stepped in. Issa Rae should have said, look, this is not okay. Vanessa, I understand you have your feelings against Amanda Seales, and you are within your right to feel however you feel about her. Hopefully, you guys can work things out, but it's not appropriate for you to ice her out this way. It's not appropriate, or at all. It's not appropriate for you to just make her feel like this leopard. The leopard, leper. Child, yeah. I felt really sympathetic for her. Like that wasn't okay at all. So I can only imagine the type of emotional breakdown she experienced. She had a panic attack. No one deserves that. Nope. So I understand it's easy to feel annoyed with her, and she's so, oh my gosh, she always acts like she know. No, I look. See, maybe I'm autistic because I used to get that a lot. I think the difference between me and her is I have siblings. Amanda's an only child. I grew up with my cousins as well. Like I had family around me who would say, okay, enough, right? Or, would check me every time. And so basically I didn't have this experience of free range parenting that Amanda Seals' mom had to Amanda Seals. And Amanda Seals was an only child. So you know what I mean? Like, so she there was no like, oh, I can't do this because I have to be this respectful kid. Like, there was none of that. Not to say she was disrespectful, but she wasn't in a child's place. As for me, I had to be. And I still rebelled as much as I could as the youngest of my siblings, but still there was some training done. There was some masking done. And it seems like for Amanda Seals, she just was always free to be whatever she wanted to be, no restraints, no restrictions, boom, boom, boom. And that's cool, but it's not, right? Like, you still have to operate in this world aware of the surroundings that you're in, aware of how you may come across. Because sure, yeah, fuck, I don't want to play these games. I don't want to play this game called life and these social games. And I get that. Sure. But ma'am, you're gonna have to play a game or two if you want to get this production deal, if you want to move forward in different places. Like, you have to find ways to acquiesce. I know I've said that word in a minute. One of my favorite words to say, acquiesce. Oh, such a good word. And the Q and the IESCE. Oh, that word is such a beautiful word. Is it Greek? Acquiesce. Let's look it up. Or is it Latin? Origin of okay, see, this is this is my this is my autism ADHD. No. Oh, see? Well, it's not Greek, but it's French. Acquiescence is from French. Acquiescence. I don't know. They just said French. Yeah. 1630s. So there we go. That's why I like it. I like French. Borrowed from French acquiescer, going back to Middle French, borrowed from Latin. See, there was some Latin too. They conquered a lot, right? So anyway, I love words. Okay, so yeah, is that enough? Enough. And there was another part in the interview when annoying ass nigga, put your tongue back in your fucking mouth, dog. What the fuck? You know how someone just so annoying? It's like, shut up. Like, that's what I wanted to say. Shannon, shut up. Can you Amanda's talking about how she experienced racism several times, more than several, throughout her life. She gave the experiences. She talked about when she was a kid, she was a Disney star. It was a Nickelodeon, I think, yeah, Disney. And she grew up in Orlando, Florida. And she was like right across from the studios where she lived. She lived right across from the studios. And when she got the part, she was the only Black girl, the only Black person in that proximity, in the role. Anyway, a lot of the other kids who all were white bullied her, made fun of her, called her the N-word. Like, just horrible, right? So she said, yeah, she experienced racism from that experience. Then Shannon Sharpe wants to cut her off, but you know how kids could be kids. Just like, shut the fuck up, dog. No, it's not a case of kids being kids. These kids were aware of the word choice that they use towards this particular kid who happens to be Black. I think that was intentional. They're not calling their white friends niggas. No, they're calling Amanda Seales. Why? Because she's a Black girl, and they know this term is derogatory coming from a white person. And in this, context. So the point is, he kept on dismissing what Amanda was saying. Like, y'all really got me here defending Amanda Seales because Shannon Sharpe he was the one insufferable here. Typically, that's Amanda Seales' role, but no, it was Shannon. Shannon, shut up! Let me see if I can find it. When I tell you, and then you can see in her face that, okay, nigga, what? I wanted her to go off, but I think it was best that she didn't, because she showed so much restraint and strength in that moment. I was really inspired. Like, wow. And you could see her holding back. She even said, okay. And I think she said okay like that to make it clear that I'm arguing with the fool. Who's the fool here? Who's the fool? It's not me. It's him. And I'm going to let y'all see it. So I'm not going to go back and forth, X, Y, and Z. So let me see if I can find that clip, dog. Okay. Okay. This part right here. But hold on. Oh, cool. Okay, so there's another part here. So, yeah, she gives strong examples of how she experienced racism, right? She talks about how when she was a young child, she was a student in her school, and she was the only Black girl in the school, or at least in the class, and she raised her hand to correct the teacher for teaching the wrong information, and she got in trouble for that. She was like, oh no, Amanda Seales is great, like Amanda Seales has to get straight A's, she's this and that, she's great, but she corrected me in front of the class. Now, as a teacher, I think there's different generations of teachers as far as what we allow from students and what we don't. And I think because I understand the perspective of being a teacher and feeling that embarrassment and shame, really, of being checked by your student, it is a power play. And you want to maintain a level of power and authority in the classroom. But if you're wrong, right? Like if you taught a piece of information that's incorrect and one of your students, at least respectfully, I'm hoping she said it respectfully, calls her out on it, I mean, take that up with yourself, right? Like, I don't know. Anyway, so Shannon Sharpe was talking about like, oh, well, a child should stay in a child's place. Was it racism? Was it racism? He just kept going back and forth. Like, shut the fuck up, dog. Let her get this off her chest.
All of their land taken from them by former criminals that were sent there from England. And she is calling them Stone Age people. And I, as a Black girl, the only Black girl in her class, am correcting her.
But my thing is, you're right. She possibly misspoke or she didn't know.
I guess my question to you is, why do you even feel compelled at this juncture in this interview? Why would you even feel compelled to try to?
Because because I'm not defending. But my thing is that what I'm trying to say, most adults, when
like, that's my problem. What I'm trying to say, first of all, ShayShay, this is not your opportunity to say what you need to say in an interview that you are having with this woman. It's not about your perspective. That's the weird thing to me. Like, it's not about what you think, Shannon Sharpe. It's about you listening and allowing Amanda Seales to have this platform to talk about herself. It's really about herself. You could add a piece here or there, but this idea of you trying to challenge her and you're not there. Mentally, you're not there. You don't have the wherewithal. God dang, that shit was so annoying.
And kids correct them or speak, feel some type of way. This is not unique to a black, white, or white, black.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm sorry that you took it that way. But I remember when I was growing up, my grandparents and parents said, hey, kids, stay in your place. Adults are speaking. That's all. Maybe that didn't happen where you were from in Orlando, Florida. But where I grew up, when I grew up, kids did not correct adults.
And I feel like he stuttered more than I've noticed him stutter in previous interviews. I think he was intimidated by Amanda Seales. I think he felt inadequate compared to her. I really do. So, because something about the energy he had throughout this interview, it felt like he wanted to demonstrate he's just as intelligent, if not more. So I'm going to challenge her. I'm going to, push back on some of the things that she says. I'm not going to let her have the floor. I'm going to try to control the. No, shut the fuck up and listen, nigga.
Oh. So I apologize if you thought it came off as combative.
No problem.
Well, I hope you guys are watching this as you're hearing me right now. Like, go on the YouTube page of my channel and make sure you subscribe, Built Like This Podcast, and you'll see these clips that I'm showing. Amanda's like, okay, I'm because at some point you gotta stop arguing, right? At some point you gotta let the other person just play with themselves. Take your dick out and play with yourself.
Let's get into your acting. You've been at this game for a long time. You started in 1993 as a child actor. Was that something that you always wanted to do?
Like, first of all, this question was dumb by the beginning of it, right? You started acting in 1999 or whatever he said, or 93. Was this something that you always wanted to do? You was a kid. What? What do you mean always? So the 8 years of my life at that point, did I always, like, what do you say? You see what I'm saying? Like, did he write these questions down? Can he? Child.
Not that I always wanted to do. I mean, I started dance very, very young. In 1989, I was on Disney. Okay. Well, I was on, sorry. In 1989, I went to an audition for Disney because they had something called the Sparkling Christmas Spectacular at Disney World in Orlando. And my mom was like, I think you should go on audition. So I went and auditioned and I made it, which I was not expecting to do. It was like 1,500 kids dancing and I made it. And I'm like, okay. And even though you're going to probably have an issue with this, they were racist. So when I was at Disney and I was in the situation at Disney, I was there as the only Black girl. Okay. And there was a whole crew. It's like,
so this is the other one that I was just talking about. Okay. Well, this whole episode is going to be about this interview. I just was really I watched this all today, y'all. So this is fresh. Okay. So it's from the hot pocket. Breaking news.
12 of us. And so I was called an N-word right there while I was there. And I was also,
it's funny how she said the N-word instead of saying the actual word. It's funny because throughout this episode, this interview, Amanda Seales has been saying the N-word in its fullness. But when it comes to reciting a racist moment that she experienced when she was younger, she could only say that. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Like, okay, why can't you just say the word out now?
Bullied while I was there because I was told that you're only here because you're Black. You can't really dance. You're just here because you're Black. So don't get any ideas. So that's what I'm being told by the other children. Does that suffice as racist to you, or would you want to call it something else? Is that just kids being mean?
The kids. So let me ask you a question. As a child.
Yo, when I tell you I and this is the first 20 minutes. This is the first 20 minutes, y'all. Now, I'm assuming the order of this whole episode is accurate, right? So the first 20 minutes that we are watching are the first 20 minutes of the actual interview, right? You know, so how sometimes people like to take this clip and move it here and move it there. I'm going with the assumption that that's not the case, that everything is in order. So if that's the case, imagine that the self-restraint that you have to exercise in this moment, just in the first 20 minutes of this interview, and feeling like you're talking to a damn fool. You're talking to a damn fool. You're talking to someone who is not, who doesn't even match up to what you got. He doesn't match up, and I hate to sound, maybe I don't hate to sound like a bougie person, but my God, man, Shannon Sharpe sounds so fucking stupid. I don't. Let me go back to that. That was so damn dumb.
So when I was at Disney,
Yes.
and I was in the situation at Disney, I was there as the only Black girl,
Okay.
and there was a whole crew. It's like 12 of us. And so I was called an N-word right there while I was there. And I was also bullied while I was there because I was told that you're only here because you're Black. You can't really dance. You're just here because you're Black. So don't get any ideas. So that's what I'm being told by the other children. Does that suffice as racist to you, or would you want to call it something else? Is that just kids being mean?
The kids. So let me ask you a question. As a child, you never said anything derogatory? You was just this model citizen as a child?
And look at him looking at her. Look at him looking at her. I think he came into this interview with his preconceived notion about Amanda Seales. He already had this impression about her, and that led to his dismissiveness throughout this interview. I really believe that. It just felt like he was over her. It felt like he was just rolling his eyes internally and doing his best to push through.
I mean, children. No, we're talking children, not functioning adults. Now, if you told me adults, parents were telling you this, or the execs or people that are in charge of Disney are telling you this, I could agree with it. But at 89, you're probably 8, 9 years of age. Maybe younger.
And here's the thing. Why do you think it's appropriate to say that right then and there while she is recounting an obvious hurtful experience that she had? And you're saying, it's just kids being kids. It's just kids being kids, Amanda. Were you a model citizen when you was 8? Shut the fuck up, nigga. It's not about me being a model citizen. Shannon Sharpe. This nigga's dumb. Like, are you okay?
So you have no problem with the children that were cursing out Ruby Bridges and the Little Rock Nine? Do you think that was just them being...
Exactly. That right there was like, boom, look at me defending Amanda Seales. If that's not going to be the title of this episode, let me write this down just in case I forget. Look at me defending Amanda Seales. Because, wow. Look at me. Are you?
Kids?
Two things can be true. Kids can be kids and not function as an adult, and things can be wrong. And sometimes when kids say things, they're repeating what they heard their parents say. They don't know it's wrong.
So what about the children who are receiving it that know it's wrong? Does that not matter?
Yes.
So if I'm 10 and I'm receiving that treatment and I know it's wrong, does it make my experience of it less?
It doesn't make it any less valid. No.
So that's what we're here to talk about, my experience.
Yes.
Boom. Thank you. Let him know. Let's recenter this about my experience. Shannon Sharpe, this is about Amanda Seales. This is whom you invited to this podcast. Let her share her experience without you trying to defend the villain in her story, in her experience, in her history.
So my experience is that I experienced that and it was difficult. So that's the valid part of this. I'm not here to protect those people because it's irrelevant to the conversation. So when I'm talking about me being on this dance show, I was...
Oh, praise. Look, hands down, that was That was some slick shit. I want to read like that. So this is my experience. And it's not about me having to defend these other people when I'm talking about my, like, what do we, and I think we do that a lot, right? We try to talk about the other person's perspective while you're sharing how hurt and saddened you were by this experience. And it's like, look, we're not here to talk about this other person and why they did what they did and why they're not really that bad or why you had a different experience with this person. No. Center me in this moment right now. Center my feelings here and recognize that I was hurt. I was victimized. I was isolated. And I was 10 years old when I experienced this. Grief for that 10-year-old.
There. And it was, there was other kids there who were actually really kind, and they had been in like the business. And so, for instance, shout out to Melissa Salamoni, her grandmother, they were.
Anyway, we can wrap it up there, child. Oh, this interview was just, it was unnerving. It was, I want to get to the part where she immediately starts off with her diagnosis and then he asks that damn question again. Let's go back to that. I'm sorry, that was so stupid.
Saying that's not
How you welcome me in my own house?
No, because I know that I have a because of racism.
Go to another direction a little later. What started this evolution? What caused Amanda to all of a sudden see things, or not see things differently, but maybe see things as they actually are?
Because so many people were seeing what I was experiencing, and they shared with me that they had had similar experiences.
Okay.
And so I recently was diagnosed as someone who has autism spectrum disorder, which is very difficult to identify in Black women because of racism.
So what exactly is autism spectrum? Because I hear people say you're on the spectrum.
It used to be called Asperger's.
Okay.
But that is no longer what it's called, because to my knowledge, I don't do none of this shit, but I have a certain tone about how I speak. And that makes people feel like, oh, I'm mean, because something about the tone that I speak in doesn't make them feel a certain way. And so,
can I ask you this? Not to cut you off, but were they people?
But see, that's the answer. Not to cut, but you did. Shut the fuck up. Let's sit back and listen.
That you had relationships with? Were this in the workplace that you became difficult, or this people that you just have general interactions with?
These aren't people I've met.
So if
the people who are saying these things about me have never met me.
And that's impacting you?
Yes.
Yes. And he's saying, like, whoa, why? How could that be so, Amanda Seales? What are you talking about? That's a normal experience. You are always impacted by people you don't know as well as people you do know. Like, sure, after some time, you may grow accustomed to it and you may grow a thick skin to it, but naturally it does play a role. Naturally, you're going to respond. And here's the thing, Shannon Sharpe is impacted by what people say about him, huh? Wasn't he just on his show with Ocho Cinco talking about going back and forth with Mike Epps, talking about, oh, he's not gay? Like, he was obviously impacted by what Mike Epps said about him on his stand-up show. So you was impacted, right, by someone you don't know. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, this, are you listening? Oh my God. This is a deep dive. This episode's a deep dive. I'm sorry. I literally had so many other topics to talk about, but this episode came out and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and hit play. As much as I complain about Amanda Seales, I just can't stop but listen to her at times. But yeah, not me defending Amanda Seales.
Why?
For a number of reasons. One, I am not a sociopath. Two, it is actually a part of being autistic that you are very, very, very sensitive to what people think about you, because you are always keenly aware that you are an alien. You are keenly aware that you are different. You are keenly aware that something is very odd about you, and you're always trying to make the room feel good. We literally just talked about it because it's my habit.
Right.
It's my habit to try. I'm gonna cry already. I've only been here for like 5 damn minutes. It is my habit because I've always been labeled as this. You think you know everything. It's not that I think I know everything, but I really did know the answer. And I'm thinking I'm helping the room out by having the answer. But they like,
I think you're a know-it-all.
You're a lot. You're a show off. You're extra. In my sophomore year of college.
I remember, oh my gosh, this kind of brings me back to a memory. I remember I was seeing this guy back in college. It was like a brief moment though, seeing this guy. That's you know how you say, oh, I'm seeing this guy. That sounds more official, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. Nonetheless, I was seeing him. I liked him a lot. It wasn't really reciprocated, obviously. But obviously because the way it turned out and what I'm about to say. So he says to me, ultimately, you're just too much. You're just too much, Maxine. You're just too much. And that stuck with me. I'm like, what? What do you mean I'm too much? Like, that really hurt my feelings. And it just made me feel like, am I not enough? Why can't I be just enough for you? And I remember in that moment when I responded, because I was thinking that, I didn't say it out loud because I had like low self-esteem then. Anyway, I was like, I responded. I was like, I won't be too much. I'll be fine. I'll be like, I'm literally saying that to him, trying to fit in this box. And it just struck me like, what do you mean I'm too much? No, you're not enough. Hello? You're not enough. How about that? So yeah, that was shout out to him. Ooh, college. What a time. But yeah, that was a moment. But yeah, I get that. I felt that sentiment. I felt that sadness, just like, oh, you're too much. So there was so many moments in this interview. I was like, yeah, I see Amanda Seales. I see her.
I was put in a suite with 7 other women. And the day I got there, my name had been ripped off the door and thrown on the ground. I didn't even know these women. And 2 weeks in of them not talking to me, I said, listen, I'd like to have a Friday night where I buy a bottle of tequila and we all just sit around and y'all can take shots and tell me why you don't like me. And everybody's reason was, I don't like you because you think you all laugh. I don't like you because you extra. I'm an outlier. You know, it's always interesting when people call me the mean girl. I say I must have turned into a bad bitch because I was flat-chested and loud for a really long time. Like I was always the bullied one.
Right.
I've been bullied for all type of shit. But when you ask, like, why does that bother you? It's because no one wants to be invalidated. I don't think anyone is really okay with that. And I think that also as a Black woman, we are always kind of put in this position of appeasement. And how do you not disrupt the space? How do you not disrupt the space? And if you're going to not like me, I would at least like it to be for a legit reason.
Okay.
And I'm so happy to be in this space with you because, to be honest, like, I've spent so much time trying to convince people at the fucking Red Wedding until you watch the show, because in the writing, it is just a series of events. That is part of my autism. I speak in directs. I speak in linear spaces. I speak in literals. That's part of the reason why people don't like me neither, because I'm literal and I take things literally. So if you say to me, I'm gonna be there at 5, I'm like, why you ain't here at 5? They're like, well, I'm at 5-ish. Well, you should have said 5-ish because I was waiting for you at 5.
So let me ask you this. How old were you when you got diagnosed, and did you always feel that you was different and you felt something was wrong?
Nigga, what? Right? I'm sorry, I know I said this a while ago, but literally we just listened to it together, y'all. Y'all hear what I'm saying? She went on this whole spiel about how she felt like an outsider. People didn't like her for all of these reasons. She didn't understand why. None of this was intentional for her to be this quote unquote know-it-all. She never was trying to, And then he said, so did you always feel different? Now, I just want to know. Anyway, all right, I think I beat a dead horse enough. But there we have it. An hour in. There goes this episode. Yeah. All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much for listening. I'm dead ass. We'll just wrap it up here. And click that like button. Click that subscribe button. Can we just talk about my titties for a second? I'm just like, I don't know. At this point, breast milk needs to come out. The way these jugs are jugging, I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if I feel sexy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I need my man to affirm me. Hello? Freckles Bay? Hello? Seriously, I'm just like, my body just feels. I've been working out. Oh, that's what I want to talk about. But obviously, we talk about Amanda Seales. But let's just say this real quick. So, you know how in the Bible it talks about, I know we're bringing to the Bible. Praise God. it talks about idle time is the devil's playground, right? And basically that means don't be idle. Don't have nothing to do. Don't always be bored. Don't have nothing on your schedule, because that time is an opportunity for the devil to strike and push you away from God's plan in your life. And what I take from that is we all are given these creative gifts, these God-given talents, and it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing. And we don't all necessarily have one talent and that's it. No, a lot of us have, I think everyone have particular talents, multiple of them, and gifts and skills that are just natural to them. And when we exercise those talents and gifts and skills, we really get to walk in the favor that God has for us in our lives. We really get to recognize our purpose. We really get to see how does our influence, how do our talents and gifts and skills, how can they be of service to others? So I say all this to say, for the past 2 weeks now, I've been so focused on just my interests and the hobbies that God has placed in my heart. Like I love reading, I love um exercising, I love being active, I love learning, I love creativity in so many different facets. I love podcasting, right? I love being funny and creating these like clips of humor. I love cooking. Like there's a lot of interests and talents and gifts that I have and I like to explore more and have fun with, that it's been taking up my time, but my days have been fulfilling in that sense. It feels like my purpose is being met and fed every time I tap into a talent or a gift or an interest or a skill set that I have and that I've been wanting to explore more. I feel like that is all in the alignment of God. And it reminds me also of how I came on here talk about my love for pornography, right? My love for, oh my gosh, how do I come off like saying that? The point is, you know how I came on, oh, I love porn. But not to say I love, but like pleasure is great. But I think the issue with that is when you overindulge in something like pornography and something like masturbation, it could take you away from the talents that God want you to explore more, right? So I say all this to say I haven't been masturbating. I haven't been watching any adult content because I've been just focused on my God-given talents and the gifts and creativity and the skill sets that God has placed in my life, in me. And it's been so fulfilling. And I feel more fulfilled when I do that than I do when I'm just spending an hour or so rotting away flicking my bean, and watching so much titty and that, like I feel like I'm exercising my days more productively and more in alignment with what God has for me, that it feels like I'm on the right track. And again, it brings me back to the initial quote that I just said, the idle time is the devil's playground. So I hope this encourages anyone to really tap into the interests and the creativity and the desires and the skill sets and all of that you already have, and see where it takes you and see how fulfilled you will be in all your days. Like really, if you just like tap in and exercise your focus on more productive things, you really get to experience the fullness of life. So yeah, that's it. That's what I want to end off with. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. So make sure you like this video on YouTube. You subscribe to this podcast on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And tell a friend to tell a friend. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.